Paul English. How are you?
Karen Dodd, I'm absolutely fine. I'm enjoying a lovely sunny day down here on the south coast, just back from a refreshing walk. It's sunny, it's very warm still, which is very pleasant. So I'm quite cheery. And as I've just told you, I've just had to put a lasagna in the oven
The
because someone's got to
lasagne.
do it, right? Someone's
Somebody
got to do
has
it.
the
Yeah.
lasagne, indeedy. And you've just been for a nice walk along the prom, and I think we're
Yeah.
having an Indian summer. Am I allowed to say that? Is it an Indian summer, a late summer? I don't know why.
I don't know
It's
if you're
hot.
allowed to say. Well, we are having one. Yes.
We are. It's
Well, we always
glorious.
have them in
Yeah.
September, don't we?
Mm.
Don't we always
We
have them?
do.
They're
We do.
always
Yeah.
fantastic.
If you want a
Yeah.
bride or a Barbie, book it down in September because that's when we get our summer. Anyway, it's good
We
to
do.
speak to you. It's been a while. You know, you've been a busy boy, so that's good. You've got lots of shows going on. I think you've got a YouTube channel now as well, haven't you, Mr.
Oh,
English?
I've got
Mhm.
everything, and I got a new pair of
Everything.
trousers the other day. It's
Oh,
all going,
wow.
it's all going swimmingly well. Everything, everything's just fantastic,
This is what we want to
and the
hear.
country's been managed so well, and English people have never been happier or had a better managed country, have they? So it's just great.
Well, at least they're expressing themselves, and they're not. They might be getting like a slap wrist in the process because you've got to be very, very mindful what you say now with this new bill. Is it online speech or online safety act or something to keep us safe and sound and protect the children? So we've got to be very careful. But yeah, people are expressing themselves with flags and all sorts of stuff, aren't they? So it's good.
They are,
Yeah, we
they
we
are.
are we are making our sentiments heard, which is really important. I thought today we could just have a chat. Well, actually, the reason I really wanted to talk to you today, Mr. English, is because the last time we met in the pub with a whole bunch of
Yep.
people, I felt you were a little bit angry.
Yes, I
Oh,
am.
right, that's it. Goodbye. End
I'm
of.
always,
Yeah,
I'm always a little bit angry. I just keep it in check. Yeah, I think
yeah.
and I don't mind. In fact, maybe I've been angry for so long. I think it's almost like part of my. You come to view certain aspects of your own character as being a key part of it. But I view it as a righteous anger. It's an anger based on. I mean, there's a bit of frustration about certain things as well. This doesn't mean to say that I'm always right, but sometimes, yeah, like everybody else, I'm not able to. I'm not able to be a Zen master Buddhist. Thankfully, I don't want to be one either.
No.
So I've no interest in being like that. But I
And you're
do
not
think,
alone, are you? You're not alone. You're not alone in your sentiment. A lot of people are actually angry. So I suppose, saying, they're out in the streets waving things, aren't they? So
hmm
you're entitled.
I think
What,
so.
what is
Yeah.
it? What is it that is? Can I say that? What are you angry about?
I suppose it's there. Well, it sounds a bit churlish, really, to say this because there are, as you were just touching upon there are lots of positive, good signs around. Unfortunately, also at the same time, there are even more negative signs around. So the whole sort of, it's like the heat's going up in the kitchen, don't you feel, all the
Yeah,
time?
yeah.
In terms of all sorts of things. I suppose the key thing is that I think that there's kind of some core things that are not as well known as I feel they ought to be known. That's me, right? That's my sort of take on it, which would assist us tremendously to speed up and do things. And also another aspect, and this is also a commandment, as it were, back to myself, is work harder. I work hard, but I could work even harder, and I think I need to, and I think everybody does. Which is me being the school teacher now. Come on, everybody, put your back into it. But there's never been a time when this would be a more appropriate response. So, and there are lots of good signs. I mean, so there's some good stuff. I also think that we're under such a barrage of psychological operations at the moment, some of which appeal to me a great deal, but which I've also got one eye peeled for the hidden hand that's in it. I think the flags are part of it, unfortunately. I love the flags. I love the fact that they've all gone up, but I just have this sort of rational question is how do you get a million flags then? Because that's what I've been told has gone up, and it may well have been a million. I mean, did they have a warehouse somewhere with a million on standby ready to go? So I feel as though hopefully more and more people, and I see a lot of evidence of this online as well, that people have got their eyes peeled, that there are things being set up, events. We've got Tommy Trousers doing his event at the weekend, right? And I want everybody to be safe, and I hope it
Mm.
doesn't kick off. And yet, there's a part of me is telling me, the opportunity for the other side to create some kind of a ruckus there and then blame it on the protesters or whatever is huge.
Mm.
And they tend to not look a gift horse in the mouth. So I hope I'm just being overly paranoid and fretful about something that doesn't happen. I want it to be like that. I'd be quite happy to be wrong about that, but I'm always harboring suspicions because they're historically they're very sophisticated in the way
Mm.
that they know how to play us because they've been studying us like lab rats for hundreds of
A
years.
long time. Yeah.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
long time. And, we are weak in certain areas. I mean, what's really heartening is that many people are beginning to sort of be very frank and forthright with their own shortcomings. And this is good. No one's going around saying, I know it all, which is fantastic because nobody does.
Mm.
And the more we sort of get that mood or that attitude amongst people, the more I think we're going to be able to bind together a dropping of egos or a reduction in them. You can never get rid of it completely. And a sort of willingness that if we do not literally pull together here, we're going to be in some awful doo-doo that we may not have the means to get out of for a very long time. And that is a concerning thought. And I think we need to use that concern in a positive way, and
Wise
change it
words.
into action. Yeah.
Wise words. And also, I mean, the like you say, Tommy Trousers and other people that are at this event, which is I think this weekend, isn't it? Some people
Hmm.
say they are on, they are part of the other side, and who knows? Who knows? But I guess at the end of the day, we just don't want violence. We want peace because if there is violence, then we're playing into their hands, aren't we? Because we know what that could incur. So that's not good.
Yeah, I'm afraid we will. But it may well be that if something of a ruck does develop down there, the chances that agents provocateurs within the crowd would be the cause of it is high. In other
Mm.
words, placemen from the other side will be in there to kick something like that off. I suspect the vast majority of people going along do want to do it peaceably, are decent English and British types across the board, and won't want it, but they may well get hoovered into it. And I'm hoping
Yeah.
that that doesn't happen. And hoping for things is a bit pathetic and weak, but I am because I can't do anything else. But I'm not going near there because I just think,
Yeah. I agree.
I just think that the possibilities for something very negative are considerable, and I don't think they will want to miss an opportunity to create more trouble for us if they can. Hopefully,
I
all that's guff. I
I
hope
hope
next
so.
Monday I
Yeah.
go, that was complete guff that I was talking
Cool.
about last week,
Yeah.
and
But we
I
don't
don't
know.
mind being wrong.
We no. We see. Yeah. Let's see what happens over the weekend. It's interesting when you talk about agent provocateur because I just like to take this opportunity to say that there is there is a group of people that are actors, but they're called crisis actors, and I'm sure you know about this. And for those people that do not believe about these that go in and they are paid to make a mess of something, a protest, and I know it goes on through football as well. People come from different ends of the world to come to a football match to create a ruck, to cause violence, and you can go online, and I don't know the name of the groups or the companies, but they're called crisis actors, and you can employ
Yes.
them, and they appear. They go to some event where there's been a bomb or whatever, and they're dead, a real allegedly a real bomb, they're dead, and then 2 weeks down the line, they're up again and then they've got a bandage around their head. They're crisis actors and they're paid. So this does happen. And for people that think we are talking nonsense, have a look, check it out. Just sort of throw that in there.
No, it's a good thing to throw in. I actually had the name of one of the companies. I used to have their
Oh,
website. I probably got it in a bookmark somewhere floating around. So I
yeah,
don't know how much you
yeah.
get paid. I mean, you and I get paid loads for this, don't we?
Oh,
So I,
yeah,
I,
yeah.
I probably don't need the extra employment. But if you're looking for a part-time job and you're quite prepared to be a traitor to your own people, that's the job for you,
That's
everybody.
the job for you. And
Yeah.
do you know, I was watching one the other day, and one of these, what do they call them? Journalists, but they're like you and I. They're not professional journalists. They're
Citizen journalists, the
thank
proper
you.
ones, the only
That's
ones where
right.
you might even get a smattering of the truth. That's what you
That's
mean,
it.
right?
That's it.
Yep.
And he was trying to do his job by going up to ask somebody what the protest, why are you here? What are you standing up for? And the guy didn't know. He had no idea. He just stood there with a banner. He said, well, I don't know. It was just, and it says it all, so if you ask questions and you might get to the truth. Can
Oh
I
dear.
also talk about the floaty things that a lot of people then have got at the end of their garden, the flags?
Hmm.
So a lot of people have got either the Union Jack or they've got the Cross of St. George. Can we talk a little bit about what flag one should have and what these represent? Because I think we were chatting about this the other day in the pub, were we not? I think we were. I think it was
Yeah,
you.
yeah, I think we can. I
Hmm.
mean, You're going to get pulled up, I suspect, on any of the flags that you fly. And some of the factual things that come back are true. I mean, they are true. Obviously, St. George did most of his fighting out in Turkey, I think it was, against a dragon. But these things are emblematic and mythical in a way and represent certain qualities, I would suggest, that we want to have inherent within our sort of national psyche. That's why we have them. So the St. George's Cross is relatively new. I don't know. I mean, I think it's under 1,000 years old since we had it. Maybe it's a little bit older than that. I mean, the Knights Templar, I don't know what flag, but you see, that's round about the Crusades. So they may well have had it by then. That's maybe where they acquired it. Um, so everybody seems to be okay with that flag. I'm fine with it. It's known as England.
But other
It,
nations have that as well, don't they? That Red Cross, other countries have that as their emblem
They
as well,
do,
I
in
think.
yeah, in variants or with slight sort of augmentations to the design. It takes place all over. Of course, the Scots have the saltire, which is the flag running diagonally, as it were, which was also the flag that the Southern troops had in the U.S. war between the states in the 1860s. Their flag was a different sort of flag. Um, and flags turn out to be incredibly important. They're extremely galvanizing, as everybody's now found out. They're very galvanizing because they kind of sum up. This is my take on it. They sort of sum up people in a split second. People just align with them. And of course, you can mock it. You know, in the old days, people had to rally to the flag on a battlefield. Literally, they had to do that because that was the form of communication on a battlefield with guys with axes and swords and a lot of shouting and screaming and all that kind of stuff. You couldn't get. How do you command troops? I mean, it's very, very difficult. You couldn't be heard. Probably the din, the clash of everything. So the flag was almost like a survival point, and it's basically saying you need to rally round this flag because if we don't all get together, we're all going to get picked off in little pockets here and there, and we stand a much better chance of winning this or at least reducing our losses if we all bind in it. So it's got a survival quality to it. For any nation's flag has got that in it.
Mm.
And you know, people say, "Well, I die for the flag and I hold it up," but it's not that simple. It's actually, I think, it's a dynamically useful thing under those physical circumstances. You can see why they arose, and why they were absolutely paramount for, you know, increasing your chances of survival from a mass battle, which must have been quite a
Mm.
thing. Not a pleasant thing, but
Not
a
a pleasant
thing.
thing. And I think
Yeah.
you're right, because when you watch movies, there's always some poor youngish bloke at the front holding the banner, holding the flag, isn't he? And then people are being shot or whatever's going on. And somebody has to grab the flag and hold it. It is like this last, you know, that's the last thing to go if it has to go. So it's quite interesting when you know, what you're
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah, it forms these rallying points
Mm.
in a
Bring everybody
terribly
together.
chaotic situation. I mean, what's that thing? All battle plans go out of the window the minute you meet the enemy. So they've got all these carefully laid plans, but
Yeah.
the minute it starts, people don't think straight, and you have to have very, very simple sorts of things to rally people, like trumpets. They would be heard across a battlefield,
Yeah.
and flags. Those are the things that you
And
need.
drums and
Shouting
others.
wouldn't work. Your
No, you
voice
couldn't
wouldn't be
hear.
heard. You know. So
And
um,
also with regards to the Union Jack, what's your take on having the Union Jack? Because now Great Britain, United Kingdom, England, or whatever is a
mhm.
corporate. It's a corporate entity, isn't it? It's become part of a corporation. So
Yes.
when you're flying the Union Jack, you are
Yeah.
actually flying. It's like you're agreeing to being a corporation, and most people have no idea about that. Can you share any light on this?
Yeah, probably in layman's terms, it's not something that I've tunneled into a great deal, but the the union, as it were, between Scotland and England is the beginning of well, it's the United Kingdom. You've also got Britain and then Great Britain, and these unions of these nations, England and Wales, has always been sort of bolted together anyway, much to the chagrin of the Welsh, which I completely understand. And but historically, that's how it's all sort of come about. I mean, the United Kingdom is a political arrangement. And of course, me just saying this is not going to change how people use it overnight, or it would take a long, long time. But you've probably noticed on documents, they always ask you to fill it out and say that you reside in the United Kingdom. And I'm always desperately crossing it out and just putting England on in biro. Of course, online, you can't do that with all these online forms. It's not possible anymore.
No.
But nobody actually lives on or in the United Kingdom. It's a political arrangement. Yet, and this is how they get you slowly but surely to start thinking of yourselves in a different way. And when that happens, you tend to not defend your true interests because you're losing connection as a tribe and you're being swallowed up into something larger. And this is why there's always been fighting between tribes, because people don't want that. People want to live the life the way that they've known it and grown up in it. It doesn't matter who they are. And it's a human impulse to do that. You go, well, this is my tribe. It's got some faults and I don't like them, but it's also got some virtues which I cherish, and I don't care what the other side is offering me. We don't want it
Yeah.
because we want to make our own mistakes. Thank you very much. But of course, this is what often why these things happen. So, I mean, the Union Jack, I mean, I actually like it as a flag. I mean, graphically, I think it's fantastic. It's just a great flag. But then maybe I'm completely, brainwashed by all the films we've seen of Nelson and all the British Navy going around the world for 200 years with this thing flying in the breeze. It's quite an emblematic, very striking. It's the red, white, and blue.
Mm. Mm.
You've got it all there. You've got echoes, obviously, of red, white, and blue in the United States flag. But yet again, that flag's got a very interesting history because it's a morphing of the East India Company flag, which was the first flag that was flown over there about 400 years ago. So. And it's not really a proper flag in the sense that it's actually a military flag, is the US flag. I had someone on the show the other day, Paul Beener, a good friend who's in the States. He was talking about there is a peace flag for the United States, which looks similar to that, but the colors are kind of reversed. There's something slightly different. I can't describe it any better than that because I've not seen one, but I'd like to. The flag of peace, as it were, the flag of the nation when it's not at war. But they're flying kind of a war flag. And all this symbology goes intentionally over our heads. We just go, well, that's the flag, right? And all that kind of stuff. But within their system of control and linguistic deception, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, these flags symbolize certain authorities which they have bequeathed to themselves. And you end up falling under that. That's why they kind of, they champion certain things and we can't understand often what they're doing. So, I like the Old English flag, which I think we talked about. This white dragon on a red background. I think it's fantastic. It's a wonderful flag. Everybody will know, of course, that the Welsh have a red dragon, and rightly so. But the English, the Saxons, so we're talking pre-Alfred the Great, that time, and this goes back quite a while, before the St. George's Cross and everything, would fly a white dragon on a red background. And I'd read that I think it was the flag of Arthur's father, King Arthur, Uther Pendragon.
Mm.
Lovely name. I won't mind being
Mm.
called Uther Pendragon.
Luther.
It's a bit mighty, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it is. It's got poetry to it. It's an absolutely wonderful name. But yeah, it was his flag. So I like that one. I'd fly them all probably. And the Union Jack as well gets its name. It's the Union of Jacob. It taps into biblical things as well. So it's the Union of Jacob. And it's to do with these tribes as well. The Scots and the English and the Saxons and the Gaels and the Celts having a shared root. I know many of them sort of reject that, but the people that put the flag together didn't. So you have to bear that in mind. Yeah.
So you've taken us to where I was wanted to direct us, like, and well, you started the conversation pre-record before we recorded this, saying a strange person. Well, he wasn't a strange, but he was a person strange to you. Came up and said he wanted to talk about the Bible, which is quite nice. And I'd like to head us in that direction, if we may, because I know we've done a few of these and about the Bible and the 12 tribes. And I think we should do as many as we can till people kind of grasp what we're talking about here. But also,
Yeah.
I had one question, which will hopefully is involved in religion. Should we fear God? Should God be feared?
Yes, I think we should.
Why?
Which sounds awfully negative, doesn't it? And it's a great question because it's written in Scripture, fear God. Now, my take on it, this is just my take on it, right? And everybody will have their own response to it. Mine is, if you don't fear God, you're going to end up fearing the government. Don't. God's a bit more powerful than the government. It's something to do with that. I mean, I think it's to do with the first commandment, which is to love God with all your heart and all your mind and all your soul. And I think when Christ was asked which is the most of all the commandments, that's the one that he cited. That's the first one. And of course, the second one, where he sums up most of the commandments, is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Behave well. The commandments are about good behavior. They are. They're about behaving well with others, not harming them, and dealing with it appropriately, all these harms that come about. So, I mean, and I've had people say, oh, it doesn't mean to really fear God. And we go, well, why does it say that? And maybe, maybe the translation has been hijacked by the scripture writers. So maybe in the original, it doesn't say fear God. Maybe it says respect God or love God. It might say something else. I could be in error here. This is part of an ongoing sort of thing. You say stuff. One of my little covering things, the way I'm trying to cover my backside with these things, I say, well, what I'm telling you now is the truth as I know it today, and there are probably some errors in it. Unfortunately, I can't tell you where they are yet because I haven't come across them. I mean, it's true as well. You find as you keep going into this space that you're dealing with texts that were changed from previous texts, and you keep on trying to tunnel back into the root of it to see what the true intent was. And it's not a sort of line of work that's appealing to everyone, I must admit. But I think when you get the bit between your teeth, it seems to yield up such bounty that it's, for me anyway, personally, it's worth it. I like doing this sort of stuff,
Yeah,
but you
yeah,
need some good, knowledgeable people around you, because you end up looking for documents, you don't know where to get them,
yeah.
and they do exist. That, I mean, so for now, I'm gonna fear God, and I think it's a bit like respect God. Don't muck about. There's a reason for not taking the name in vain. This is this is a serious proposition, and anybody who doesn't think so, just look around at the serious condition that we're in right now. So, I didn't touch upon this with Colin, which was the name of the chap I just bumped into. He was walking his little sausage dog down on the on the beach, and we just ended up talking together. I didn't know what he was going to talk about. I said, "Hi, how are you doing?" And we just kicked off, and he just launched into it. I didn't say a word. Seriously, you'd think I would, right? To try and kick it off. I didn't have to. He just
No,
went off.
well, it's on a lot of people's tongues, isn't it? They want to know,
Yeah.
and if you're knowledgeable, if you've done the research, then it's good to share. I think it's also good to have that caveat to say, as far as I'm aware, because things
Mm,
change, we're learning more and more. Going back to that question, do we fear God, and relating that to the Bible? So when we've spoken before, you're saying the Bible, and I'm sure we've said this on record, the Bible is written for a certain group of people. So if this is in the Bible saying respect God or fear God or do unto others, whatever, does that not
hmm
apply just to that one group of people rather than everybody that walks on this earth, do you think?
I guess I would assume so, although assume is a dangerous word here, isn't it? It's a very delicate sort of topic. Um, I think, I mean, I didn't touch upon this much with Colin because I was doing most of the listening. Surprisingly,
Mm.
you'll be shocked to hear that.
Okay. Oh.
I was, and I'm saying to myself, Paul, shut up, just listen to him. And I did. It was very interesting. He came at it from a very different angle, which I was quite keen to hear. But towards the end, I was talking about this aspect, about it being a contract, and he was nodding, and he got that bit. We're going to have a few more conversations.
The Bible being a
Yeah,
contract, yeah.
yeah, and it just, maybe it's a sort of personality thing or whatever, but this appeals to me personally because it shifts into a very sort of pragmatic guide for the here and now. And as we mentioned before on the previous shows, and I know there are people that don't agree with this, but I've not heard a better exposition of it by looking at the definition of the words, which is really what you have to do. You have to look at the definitions of these words. And a very simple and clear story comes out from it all. So I know I'm going to repeat this, and you've heard me say it before, but it's worth doing it now at this point in the conversation, I think. Testament derives from a Greek word, diatheke. It's in a book called Strong's Concordance, which is a book of like a dictionary for the Bible. It gives you the actual root meanings, the etymology of the words that you're reading, so that you can look up their meaning and their meaning in context. And a diatheke is from the Greek, and it means a contract, which is fine. I mean, contracts have existed for thousands of years. You can't get anything done on serious projects without them. You have to make agreements about time and deadlines and quality and this, that, and the other, depending on how complicated your shared contract is. So the whole world runs on them. But the defining characteristic, or a key defining characteristic of a contract, is it only affects and is only for the people that are on it. If you're not on it, you're not in it. Not because I say so, but if you say it means something else, then we're going to have to redefine what a contract is. And we can't do that because there's no need to do it. We've got historical provenance of this for thousands of years. So you agree to do something with another person by a certain deadline, and it's only you and that other person that are responsible within the framework of that contract. And so therefore, the testaments, both of them, old and new, are contracts, because that's what it says. It says the old contract and the new contract in modern parlance. So I find that personally galvanizing and very useful. And so the next stage is to try and identify who's on it. And this is identified in several places, but the one I'm thinking of, and I can't give you the exact chapter, it's somewhere in Hebrews. It might be chapter 8 or chapter 10. I sound as though I really know what I'm talking about, but I don't worry about these things too much. I can't cite you chapter and verse at the moment. Maybe in a year I might be able to, but the party of the first part is Yahweh, or Jehovah, as people sometimes say. I don't mind about this. God has a name. I'm going to use Yahweh for this conversation. Yahweh is the party of the first part. And he says, I'm going to form a new contract with the people, not like the one I had in the past, where you all buggered about, went whoring after other gods, but a new one, a new contract with you. This is in the Old Testament, by the way. And I will become a God to them, and they, my people, not all people. This is the key thing. Not all people will become a people to me. So those are the parties to the contract, God and this tribe, or these tribes of people. That's who the document is written for. It's their terms of the contract, and it's by, of, and for them. According to this narrative, I know that many people just throw it out of the window and go, no, it doesn't exist and all that kind of stuff. I, of course, would more than beg to differ. It does. And even if people aren't convinced about it, they need to understand that billions are, not in this particular focused way, but they are. And therefore, the impact of those documents is considerable, particularly on our race, for a very good reason, because, as I've suggested before, I'm just using that word nicely, the race of people is us. We are the descendants of those lost tribes. And in fact, tapping back into flags, that's another identifier, because they flew battle flags, did the Israelite tribes, and we do. It's common, it's a key thing. Maybe the Chinese have always had flags as well, so maybe that's a bit thin. I don't know. But you have this heritage with flags, with symbols, things to denote the flying of the flag for the tribe of Issachar, or the tribe of Reuben, or, Zebulun, or whatever the tribe was. They would have their own ensign, as it's known. And so it taps into that.
And you've mentioned like race and us and Israelites. So can you elaborate? Because also when you talk about the book is written for a certain group of people or race of people, I automatically go to those that we've all been told they are the chosen ones, a certain group of people. And I'm being very mindful of how we speak here. I don't know.
You? I hadn't noticed.
Sort of what we're allowed to say and what we're not.
I know. After this show, Karen, I'm going to have to take myself down to the police station and arrest myself for thought crime. And we should all do it. This is my way of dealing it, by the way. I just think we need a million of us and say, look, you might not think you've... you might not think you've committed thought crime, but you have actually. So why don't you partner up with someone, go down to the police station, you can arrest them and they can arrest you, and you can say, yeah, this person has upset me. How? Well, I don't know, but I'm really upset and I've got anxiety, so come on. And we insist that we're arrested because we're committing thought crime all the time and we can't stop.
I know it's gone. It's gone bananas, and I think it's still going to get worse before it gets better.
Do you think? I think so, yeah.
I'm not allowed to think that.
I don't know if you like. Maybe that's a thought crime, yeah.
But yeah, going back to that sort of question, if you're able to answer it in any way, you've got these tribes. So who are the Israelites? When you say us, who's? over to you. Who's asked?
Okay. Well, we have um there are archaeology plays into our hands with a lot of this, as it should, given that it's true, which I'm emphatically of the view of. I'm just phrasing it in certain ways. I could really thump the table and go, it's absolutely this way, but it's not a particularly attractive way to present any information, is it? Because it doesn't leave room for the listener to sort of move around in it. So I don't want to do that. But anybody that's interested in getting their nose buried into it will begin to discover archaeological backup for all this kind of stuff. So that in simple terms, because there's no end to the amount of complexity you can lay into the story, and that bogs it down a bit, certainly in the hour or the 45 minutes we got left or whatever, we have a situation, for example, I just pick on a few highlights because they're the best things to pick on. We are referred to, the white race is referred to as Caucasians. I've mentioned this before, but repetition's key with these things, right? So I've actually hit a point as well, Karen, where I don't mind repeating myself. I'm going, actually, at first I used to be embarrassed thinking, oh, you just said that last week. And I'm thinking, actually, that's only once a week. The other 24 hours of a day, people are getting bombarded with manure into
Yeah,
their heads
yeah,
all the
yeah.
time. We need to just
Repeat
keep
it.
banging on and
Yeah.
bang. Yeah. Are you banging on about that? Yeah, I'm not going to stop.
Again, no,
I ain't stopping.
absolutely. Do you know, can I just say, somebody said to me once, oh, you're obsessed. And normally I say, no, not. I said, yeah, I am. I took that with honor. I thought, I am obsessed because what's going on now, I have to do my bit. I am obsessed with this. So I hear
Yes.
you. And one other thing, you said that word beginning with C, ending in Asian. Are we allowed to say that anymore? Somebody said, oh, we're not allowed to say it.
I don't know.
You
Maybe
said
after the
it.
show, Karen, you could get one
Yeah.
of those beep machines and beep all the words out. Of course, it's going to make it almost unintelligible to
It
anybody.
is. I
Just
just put
beep, beep.
music all over it instead. Yeah. Sorry for interrupting, but yes,
Yeah, no,
yes, you've got
no.
to keep going.
It's a really salient point. It really is because, just going off to one side, we go back 100 years, go over to the Bolshevik Revolution, which was not Russian, right? Just to let you know, it wasn't Russian. It was Bolshevik, a very, very different sort of animal altogether. And the demonizing of language was one of the first things they did. If you remove language from people, they cannot orientate and put their thoughts together correctly. And it contributes to cognitive dissonance where people literally become confused. We've all experienced it, and no doubt we'll experience it again in our lifetimes, where you're kind of muddled in the head because there's a contradiction taking place in the way things are being expressed. And this happens over and over again. The more you study it as well, the sharper you get at seeing it very quickly and can pick words apart. And it's very powerful to be able to do that, I would suggest, because this is the code that's running everybody's thinking systems, and their actions flow from their thoughts. If you can cut it off at the pass, as it were, before it even gestates, you're doing a great service to those around you when you communicate these things. That's what I feel about this stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, going back to these people, we are referred to as Caucasians because our ancestors 2,000 years ago came up into Northern and Western Europe primarily, and in huge numbers. They came by many routes, but there was a huge amount that came up through the Caucasus. They came up through a place called is it the Darial Pass? There's a pass anyway. You can look it up. And they passed through there. There's even photographs of it to this day where the furrow that they left in the earth is still there from 2,000 years ago, with all these feet trudging down this trail. It wore a trail through it, and it's called the Pass of the Israelites there locally. It's to this day. That's what it's called. And they traveled up there. One of the tribes in particular, Dan, was known and is described within scripture as being the tribe that moved around like a snake. It doesn't mean all cunning and ready to bite your bum, although they did do a bit of that. But what it basically means is they just went everywhere. They went all over the place, like all over the earth. And they did it in boats mainly. And Dan left its name wherever it went. Its name is embedded in so many places. So in this case, that they go through the Caucasus and they pass through the Dardanelles, the Dardanelles. There's Dan in there. They get on a river called the River Danube. They move up into northern Western Europe. They settle in the Mark of Dan, Dan's Mark, Denmark. They went prior to this, they went to Ireland as well, known as the Teatha de Danann. Irish listeners may be very cross with the way I just pronounced that. I apologize. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but they know who I'm referring to. And the Teatha de Danann interbred with the Long Kings of Ireland. Same root race. Okay. This is the key thing. It's the same root race all the time. These dispersions, there were many before the big one 2,000 years ago. There were many others. And so you've got these tribes moving up, and you can actually, in a way, it's there's obviously been a lot of cross pollination between the tribes since then, but the root nations as they exist were settled primarily by one tribe or another. So, in France's case, it's Reuben, the tribe of Reuben. In Holland's place, for Holland, it's Zebulon. For Finland, it's Issachar. Mannerheim, who was the Finnish general during World War II, at one, possibly more than one, but certainly at one of his speeches when he was addressing his troops, addressed them as men of Issachar. So this is known. It's just never been featured much, right? It's never been featured at all, really. I mean, it's generally, for most people, this is surprising. If they're interested, it's of no interest whatsoever. If they're not, if they just think it's some quaint old stuff. But for those that are sort of tuning into the frequency of it, they go, oh, there's something in this. And there's more than something. There's a lot of things in it. And that's just a basic sort of framework. You've got, we mentioned, the white dragon flag of the Saxons and the root of Saxons. That name moves into the Scythians and the Sakae, Sakae. Many Scythians and Sakae ended up in Scotland. There's the SK or the SC at the beginning of that. Although Scotland is actually named after Queen Scotia, who was an Egyptian queen. So these connections with that part of the world are considerable. It's just that they're old and not very well known. They're considerable. And there's a guy as well. I heard this the other day. There's a guy runs a YouTube channel called Keltanian Chronicles, and I would recommend it to anybody who catches this podcast now. Keltanian Chronicles. I've spoken to him. He's a great guy, doing some great work. One of his was about the tribe of Dan and many of the things that I've just mentioned here, and he covers a lot of material in 20 minutes. They're very intense. After 20 minutes, you go, "Whoa, I need to watch that again." They're very compact, a lot of information. One of the talking points that he mentioned was that from the DNA tracking, which we've now got, haplogroups and all this kind of stuff, that I think there's a statement in one of them that there is a 1 in 57 million chance that the people of these islands are not the lost tribes of Israel. 1 in 57 million. So in other words, there's 56,999,000 times we are out of 57 million. And that's good enough for me. That's the sort of genetic, tribal, physiological route, as it were. The spiritual route is also equally strong, I would suggest, because if you were to say, who have been the Christ-bearing people for the last 2,000 years, it's Northern Western Europe. It just is. It's, we're not making that up. That's true. And this has been the heartland of it, because this is where the bulk of those people came, bringing that law with them to their racial brethren and kindred who'd been here hundreds and hundreds of years prior to that as well, which is why it wasn't met with any resistance at all. The Druidic traditions are exactly the same. Although the Bible doesn't really talk about morals and ethics, it's about a law of duty to the best in us under the instructions of God. So next time you ask me, I'll probably phrase it differently again, but I think that'll do for today, really.
No,
So
it's very good. I'm glad you went through that again. We do, me for one, it goes straight through. I've got to hear it over and over again. We all learn
yeah,
differently. And I'm an
yeah, we do. Yeah,
experiential learner. I have to go through and experience something physically normally. I can't experience that because it's gone, isn't it? But yeah, the more it's told, the more it will sink in. I think it's really relevant. Do you therefore think that maybe with something, some entity, somebody wants to get rid of us?
yes.
Okay. Do you want to elaborate?
Well, if we phrase it, in scripture, there's a phrase. I've got to watch my words now. Okay.
Yeah.
Esau hates Jacob, right? I actually write this a lot when I'm putting posts. And if people don't understand, I don't care because they can go off and find out, but it's in there. Esau hates Jacob. It's to do almost like with a brotherly spat that's been amplified down through the ages. That's part of it. It's a key sort of part of the root of the whole thing. And because we are all the, see, there's another bit that's worth just mentioning right now. Yahweh God in it mentions, because he gets the thing about all this is that people go, oh, you think you're these chosen people and the sun shines out your backside and you're better than everybody else. And therefore, the next phrase is you are a white supremacist. This is the phrase that comes up. Well, the way I deal with that is this. The white people, my kith and kin, are supremely important to me because without them, I couldn't exist in this capacity, and I want to, right? So there. Just as I would imagine that all Chinese people are of supreme importance to their fellow Chinese people, because that's how they define themselves. It's how their culture has arisen through their extended and extremely large now, 1,500 million at the last count, tribe, yeah? Nothing wrong with that. I would reserve that duty, as it were, for all people of the earth. They want to operate under their own terms and do their own learning or whatever, and so on and so forth. Of course, we've bumped into one another along the way. But if you look at what's happened, say, since COVID, and COVID's been the most overt expression of this, am I allowed to say that? Or does that get beat? Does it come up on the YouTube? Comes up on the warning buzzer?
Yeah.
We don't know.
No, we don't.
I don't mind. Which nations have been directly attacked more than any others through that? Well, it's what I would call loosely Christendom. Those nations that you don't have to go to church. That's not what I'm talking about at all. I'm just talking about who this group are, and this pattern is repeated throughout history. We have been involved in so many wars, and people don't tunnel into why. You're given surface explanations, I would suggest, for why they take place, but there's always another element to it, which I would suggest is the banking element, the financial side. Armies don't fight without material weapons, without guns these days, without tanks, without armored vehicles, without spears being made in the old times or whatever. Someone used to finance that. And when you start to look into the financing of wars, you start to get a very different picture because a common hand is revealed. Oh, that's all I'll say. A common hand is revealed.
Fair enough.
And in terms of our nation here, when is it? I think since the advent of the Bank of England in 1694, now this might be slightly changed differently. I read this about 20 years ago. This nation has had someone at war with somebody else every year since 1694, bar 5 years. Bar 5 years, which is mad when you think about it. However, there is a proviso to that, which is this, that Yahweh God will use the enemies of the Israelite people to bring about certain changes. This is heavy stuff. And maybe this taps into why you should fear God. This contract I'm suggesting is literally deadly serious. And it's eternally binding upon us until it's called off. And it's not been called off yet. It's been running for a long time. And one of the books that's worth reading, if you're up to it, in Scripture, is the book of Jeremiah. And have you heard that phrase? My dad used to say this. And I was talking to someone about it the other day. His dad did as well. Oh, he's just another Jeremiah. Someone who just runs around sort of warning or alarming people all the time. Well, that's where it comes from. In the scriptural sense, Jeremiah is loyal to God, and he's living in a place where the kings and the courtiers and the merchants are not. They've all gone whoring after other gods, and they're doing great. So commercially, the better they do, the less attention they pay to God. And God's furious about it. That's putting it mildly. If you read the book, you'll see how heavy this is. So he says, if they don't come round, Jeremiah, it's your job, you get out there. If they don't come round, I'm going to enable an army to be built in the north to come down and wipe them out. And that is exactly what happens. That's what happens, right? So that's pretty heavy stuff. Um, and those are very difficult, arduous, dangerous, violent, miserable, painful times. There's no two ways about it. And of course, people get put off. They go, "Oh, that Old Testament stuff, it's full of nothing but war and fighting, and God's awful to allow all this to happen." But there is a war going on down here. I can't tell you why. I can't answer that. But I think the root of it has to come from the fallen angels in Genesis.
Mm.
This one third of heaven, which is maybe allegorical, right? But something happened where there was a rebellion in the heavens, and a third of the angels, as they're called, or I've got other names for them. I think these events really took place. Angels is
Mm.
the word that we've received today. They rebelled against the chief God, as it were,
Yes.
because one of the things the Bible talks about is Elohim, which is plural, right?
Yes.
So, and it's often referred to that Yahweh is our Elohim. In other words, Yahweh is one of the gods, but he's ours. Now, this will put a lot of people's noses out of joint because they'll say, well, no, Jehovah Yahweh created the whole universe and everything. But I think that's, for me personally, that's up for further inquiry. I have to keep looking into that. This doesn't negate the contract at all. I
Mm.
can't actually explain all of those things. And Genesis is written so briefly that it's open to a lot of interpretation, which it has been. And so you get this plethora of books down through the ages with people saying, no, it means this, no, it means that. And, you get all these sorts of disputes over it. But I think broadly speaking, that is what's taken place. And that war has never really ended. And so that's kind of what we're facing. If we are the carrier, and I would say in a way, that signifies that the contract is true and applicable to us. This is why there has been so much warfare, as other envious, covetous
Mm.
eyes have wanted this status and want to kick us out of it. And we are a stupefied people in great less than we were yesterday. This is good, right? This is happening. This everybody's calling it the Great Awakening and all that. I don't think they know exactly fully what it's going to entail. Neither do I, but I don't think it's just a love and light, let's all get together,
No.
we're all going to be happy thing.
No.
I wish it were, believe you me, I wish it were that. But the indicators are that it's not. No matter how much we may seek and desire peace, and we do considerably, I do, it appears the evidence that we see, if it's true, and I suspect it's got to be based on some fact, is that there are others that don't want that and are looking to dominate and control every aspect of our lives, which will produce a rank sort of misery that I don't really want to think about. It's off
No.
the charts. So I'd rather fear God, as it were, than fear them. It's not
Okay.
particularly healthy,
Good
So
answer. Good answer. Very good. Very thorough. And what you're saying here is serious stuff. I
it
don't
is.
think people should take this lightly, what you're saying, and definitely go and do some research. And if what you're saying is true, in our opinion, your opinion, my opinion, there's a lot of distraction going on at the moment. Do you feel with all this stuff with another race, a group of people, another religious bunch of people that are coming to our shores, and all this
Yeah.
Islam, all that other stuff? Do you think that's a distraction?
Yeah. I think it's very powerful, isn't it?
Very
Um,
powerful, yeah.
I do. I've sometimes say that we live in the great distractathon, is a combination of distraction marathon. It's an ongoing, permanent distraction.
Mm.
And in times of peace, you're quite happy to be distracted sometimes and to be entertained. I'm not against entertainment or anything, but it seems to have gone past a tipping point. It's become an obsession, it seems to me. You've got the meaning has gone out of so many things which just started off as sort of like delightful, silly fun. Football, for example. I'm not going to talk a lot about football, don't worry, but it's something has gone very weird with it in my lifetime. Something unpleasant and unpalatable. It's awful. I hate it.
Mm.
I can't
Mm.
stand top level football. I don't know what it's for anymore. I know what it was for. It was tribal. People go, oh, you don't
Mm.
want all that parochial tribalism. I'm going, actually, I do. Frankly,
Mm.
people were more vigorous and alive. And yeah, there was a few punch ups and everything, but people didn't get stabbed, maybe one or
No.
two.
Well,
There was
also
none of
the
that. People
money.
didn't take knives to football
No.
grounds in the 1960s when they're knocking 10 bells out of each other. It's a different sort of thing. There was,
Yes.
yeah, it's rough. And if you don't want that, don't go. But it was just an expression of men living under tough working conditions.
Yeah.
And football on a Saturday used to be a pressure release valve. Nothing wrong with that. But what they've
I
done is they've co-opted it. They've turned it into
Yeah, they
something
have. I
wet.
remember my dad before he met my mum and had us. He was very good. I think he played for Charlton, and
All
then he
right.
had a family, and he had to make that decision. You know, does he be a
Yeah.
footballer or does he get a career? And he went down the career path of working for a bank. And he didn't like what the banks. He saw what was coming with the banks. So bless him, he's gone now. But he would say he could not afford to support a family on a
No.
wage, you know, that you would get in those days, or in the 50s, I guess it was 50s, 60s. You couldn't afford it. And he used to love his football. Saturday night, all that stuff.
Yep.
I hated it. Grew up with it. A match of the day and Sunday, oh, I hated it. But but he saw what was coming our way, because now, I mean, like you said, it should be tribal. Anybody playing for Charlton surely should be in the Charlton area, but you know, Manchester United, they're just massive corporations again. People from other
That
parts of the world support somebody from Manchester, and why? So
I
again,
don't know.
it's bread
It's
and
beyond
circus.
me.
Yeah, bread and
It's beyond.
circus.
I have no idea why. And you
Yeah,
look at it and you go, this really is sort of, that mass hypnosis thing to
yes,
some degree. And they cry when their team loses. I'm going, are you serious? This is just ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. And
yeah,
it's become meaningless because it's an attack on national identities
yes,
all the time. This is the slow creep in to destroy all nations. We happen to be top of the list because you can't have a globalist system, i.e., a communist system, which is all they're talking about, right? It's communism, which is godless, which says that man knows better than God. Yeah, right. And so you can't have that on the world if you've got people running around, albeit on the fumes of
yeah,
the good parts of Christianity, and that's what we're running on, the fumes of it. But it's there, those fumes, those embers, I'm going to suggest, will never go out because they're in everybody's heart. There's an ember of God in there. Even the people that deny it and go, no, I'm an atheist and all this, that, and the other. Okay, cool, whatever. You're an atheist today, I say to myself. Let's see where you're at in 30 years' time. Because things change, your perceptions change as you are exposed to more life. Of course, you must think about it. You must consider it. And one of the problems with this great distractathon is that the quality of people's thinking has dropped alarmingly. Um, and the AI thing poses a great challenge to to that, I would suggest. Although I think there's some hopeful signs. I was watching a video the other day, and the narrative voice was an AI voice, and they're not bad and everything, but people are beginning to detect it. You go, oh, they'll never know. Yeah, they know. We know. You can feel it. You can just feel it. I don't care how sophisticated it gets, and it's getting very, very sophisticated. Maybe in another 5 years' time, we
mm,
won't be able to tell because they'll put all these patterns in where the voice will change its energy levels over a 15-minute period, as ours always do. You have a little
mm,
drop off and what and all this kind of stuff. But someone had written in there saying, can we have proper human voices narrating videos back, please? I'm getting really tired of this.
yeah.
The ears, our ears are extremely well attuned, and I'm going to suggest that in part that's the spirit playing a role.
Yeah.
We have
The
to
true
be,
essence of who we are, the true essence
yes,
coming out. I think you're absolutely right. I think you can see it when you go to supermarkets. For those that still go to supermarkets, I try and avoid it, but I still go. But a lot of people don't want to go to that scanny thing, self-scan. They would rather wait in the queue and have an
yep,
interaction with a human being. And people are coming back to that. With so I think things will change. I think, like you said, the essence of what we are is going to
mm-hmm,
seek out, come to light.
yep,
Paul, I'm just aware that we've done over an hour, and I'm also aware that you've got a radio show this evening in less than an hour. So I think we should wind up. We're always I'd love to have you back on another time. Is there
sure.
anything, yeah, you want to end up, just to close? Is there anything you would like to say, and also promote your show that's on tonight? If people want to hear more of what you're doing or what we're talking about, what's going on with you?
Sure, yeah, if they catch this in time. Well, I'm actually
Oh
on a
yeah.
show hosted by Eric von Essex. That's obviously his real name, right? And, it's his show's called Fockham Hall, which is just tremendous. We may end up talking about these things as well, but that's on at 8 o'clock. So after this,
And
I've
is
got
that
to
on
nip
every
away and
week? Are you doing this every week now?
I just about yeah. My show's every Thursday. I
Yeah.
always do that. That's at 8 o'clock on Thursdays. You can pick that up on Rumble and YouTube, and also on Radio Soapbox. Eric's on Radio Soapbox tonight. I think he's also on Rumble and YouTube tonight. So if you look up Eric Von Essex or search for Fockham Hall with a H, Fockham, Fockham Hall. Yeah, we're trying to get into a position to sell the Fockham Hall pencil. The power pencil. If you get one of those, you'll write nothing but pearls of wisdom for the rest of your life. It's a magic pencil because you'll just look at it and go, yeah, Fockham Hall. And then off you go, you see. It's an inspiration for all of us. And
I love it.
so we'll be doing a bit of that. And I would just say, just going back to a slightly serious note, there's a line in scripture which says, study to show thyself approved. It's an extremely good guideline. It really is. Just keep studying and you'll go down some cul-de-sacs and some dead ends and you'll learn to deal with that as well. It's unavoidable, but better and better guides and the thinning out of the information and the focus on the key things is happening every single day. So keep pounding on. It's peaceable. They haven't outlawed that yet, but don't bet against it. Because they'll look to ban certain books just as they're looking to remove certain words from the lexicon. AI is already undergoing a process of that where they're trying to reduce their vocabulary. And if people get addicted to that thing, after about 5 or 6 years of actually consuming it, they'll think in the constricted narrative terms that those words bring about. I would say there's a great essay at the tail end of 1984 by George Orwell. The afterword, as it were, or the last chapter. It's called Newspeak. And it's a whole thing about how in this fictional world, which of course, unfortunately is now manifested, Orwell knew what he was talking about. They start to remove words and change words. And it's a whole exposition of the control of language. And it's so vital because what does it say at the start of the book? In the beginning was the word. And that's how we operate. We operate on words and we share and build up our wisdom through it.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Indeed.
So you've got to keep some old dictionaries. I've got 3. I could do with some nice old ones from the 1800s. It's amazing when you can find some of them online and you look at the definition of words, you go, whoa, they've really softened this one up from 1846 or whatever it was. It's amazing. It really is. They thought clearer because all they had was printed documents back then. The distractathon had not kicked off, i.e. no radio, no TV, no movies. They weren't around. And they absorb their full spectrum attention sappers are those things. They're brilliant when they work. And I'm not, again, them per se, but they're now being used absolutely for, not for our benefit. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Wise words from Paul English. So thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the show tonight. This won't get uploaded in time for that, but at least people know what you're doing over at Fockham Hall. And those watching this, if you have liked it, thumbs up. If you haven't liked it, thumbs up. Comment, subscribe to the channel so we get more momentum and hop over.
Yeah, subscribe to this channel. Absolutely.
Yeah,
do
please
that.
do. And all these channels and to Paul's so that we can, just get the information out to you because we're doing it because we need to do it more than anything, don't we, Paul?
We do. Absolutely. It's an obsession, Karen.
It's an obsession.
And rightly so.
Absolutely.
Rightly so.
Lots of love to you, Paul. I will see you very soon and enjoy the show tonight over at the hall.
Lots of love back. Thank you very much, Karen.
Thank
Been
you.
great. Really enjoyed
Thank
it.
you.
Lovely.
Cheerio. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.